Hello, brothers and sisters. I am the Treetop Flyer, and we are the Altai Band. Welcome to our next segments of our Agenda 21 documentary, titled Perception and Interpretation, the Human Dilemma. Merry Christmas, by the way. We started a while back working on this Agenda 21 documentary, and we did 3 parts. And then we did a number of parts of our Living Permaculture series to offer you solutions to Agenda 21, Thurston County Title 26, and things of that nature. Because it does no good to point out problems, troublesome agendas, and a direction that government is heading that is very problematic for us and our freedoms unless you can offer people solutions and courses of action to make a difference. That's why we interjected the Living Permaculture series in between segments of Agenda 21. Now, originally, I wanted to focus on a different segment today. Originally, I wanted to focus here. What I call the power pyramid of how government, economics, and the world really work today. I wanted to focus on this, but we're not going to spend too much time on it today. I'll briefly describe it to lay a foundation for future sequences. But it does no good to get into all this when I find consistently large segments of the population don't get it. They're not getting it, and they're not seeing what's happening even right in front of their faces. So this has confounded me and frustrated me and been a dilemma for me all my life. So I've constantly searched for ways to present this to help people get over their disbelief, their doubt, their confusion, their cognitive dissonance, and everything that prevents them from seeing what's really going on behind the scenes and happening right in front of their faces. Over the years, more than 3 decades of dealing with this, I have confronted and been confronted by every possible human reaction. Disbelief, fear, doubt, threats, cognitive dissonance, as I mentioned before. Every form of shutting down and refusing to believe and refusing to see, even when there's a mountain of evidence, the greater weight of evidence is right in front of them. So what I'm going to do today, after I briefly describe the power pyramid, is to focus on perception and interpretation, because that's the key issue here. Perception and interpretation. And I'm going to repeat that over and over. And I'm going to help you see maybe why you're not getting it. The other reason I have chosen not to focus on this specifically today is other people have done this very, very well. And I don't feel I need to reinvent their wheel, even though I have some meaningful things to contribute to it. We'll get to it later. But the other thing is after our first segments on Agenda 21, by and large, most of the feedback and the response we got from people was very positive. And we saw people were waking up and beginning to understand and beginning to look deeper themselves into what's going on or seeing it from a different angle, a different perception. But inevitably, there were those comments such as, somehow I was believing an invisible boogeymen were coming to get us, that this was somehow a fabrication, this was preposterous, that it was not worthy of serious investigation. Now, I want you to imagine that you have been a serious scientific researcher. I want you to imagine that you were a serious investigative journalist. I want you to imagine that you had studied a topic for more than 3 decades, as I have in regard to this. And someone comes up to you and presents a feedback as if it's make-believe, as if it's fictitious, as if it's not worthy of pursuit. Now, what are you supposed to do with that? How do you deal with those kinds of minds? How do you deal with that kind of perception and interpretation? And that's what I'm going to deal with today. And as I said, I've endeavored for more than 3 decades to find ways to reach people and come at it from different angles to overcome all these reactions that block clear vision. So that's what we're really going to focus on today. But first, let's discuss this a little bit. And the reason I'm going to discuss this is because government in all levels and forms today, world, national, state, local, down to the smallest of the local levels, unfortunately, is no longer your friend, our friend. If you look closely, what's happened in all levels of government is it has become no longer about a system to serve and protect, or to serve specific needs for which we created it. It now has become a ruthless, tyrannical master that operates by threat, coercion, menace, brute force, extreme taxation, and serves itself. Now, this is one of the things I have seen that is one of the, I call it a disease of consciousness of our day and time. Things can start out with a good intention. Businesses, agencies, governments, schools, religions, they start out with a good intention. They gain interest, they gain popularity, they gain participation, and then they begin to grow. And as they begin to grow, they begin to become self-serving, and they begin to attract people who come to serve their own interests and see it as something to exploit for their own interests. And as the organization grows, it starts to take on a life of its own and an intention of its own and sometimes directions of its own. This seems to be an inevitable problem that I feel we have to find ways to address better and overcome, because I see its corrupting influence in every aspect of our life in the world today. And I feel very strongly that if we don't get a grip on this, we are facing monumental, catastrophic results. And I think that is very obvious and clear every day on the news, every day in the world around you, every day in your personal life, every day as you look out and see more and more people homeless on the streets, more and more people having a difficult time economically, more and more refugees scattered around the world. 60 million, official United Nations statistic right now, 60 million people are displaced from their homes, their countries, their lives by wars and catastrophes and everything that follows that. 60 million. That's 1/6 the population of the entire United States of America. So it's not like I'm making this up. It's all right there for you to see. We have to come to grips with this, and we have to find a way to deal with it, and I'll bring up much more evidence about that as it gets into nature and what's happening in our living biosphere. Power pyramid. It's a pyramid in structure. It's always been seen this way. And so, briefly, at the top of the power pyramid, as it operates today and has for some time, we have the monetary system. Economics has risen to the top of the power pyramid. It was not always that way. So at the top of the power pyramid, most of this operational power operates in secrecy. It operates in behind the scenes. It operates in the shadows. And well, I'll show you much more about that. The monetary system at the top, private banking cartel. Private is the key word because they are private today. They appear to be governmental institutions, agencies regulated by, but they're really not. They are private banking cartels. The entire world economic system is owned, controlled, and operated by private banking cartels. Underneath that, there are global corporations that interface with them, and they work together to be the power at the top of the power pyramid. Underneath them, operating in the shadows and secrecy, we have secret societies. Wow, what a history of evidence and information there is there. World religions, think tanks. Now, the think tanks are really important because they make the policies that will be carried out by other people further down the power pyramid. And they operate in secrecy, and you think that you're creating the policies and the politicians are setting this stuff in motion. But really, this is being done through fellowships and think tanks and universities on behalf of the owners and controllers of the monetary system, the private banking cartels, and the global corporations that operate beyond government. They are supra-government, okay? Now, we also have proprietary corporations underneath there. They work hand in hand with this next level down. This next level down are intelligence agencies and the military-industrial complex. They're married together. Intelligence agencies governing the intelligence gathering apparatus for military-industrial complex. And I use the term military-industrial complex as former President Eisenhower did as he left office and gave a very ominous warning to everybody in the world about that. And that was his term, the military-industrial complex. And he basically was pointing to the fact that it has seized control over the reins of government, but it has done so on behalf of the owners of the monetary system. Now, I want you to understand, see, I put a green little triad in the top of that pyramid. That represents the extreme minority of human beings operating and controlling this entire system. They are very few in number compared to the huge population of this planet at this point. 7 billion plus. No one really knows quite for sure. Let's just say 7 billion plus. A small handful of people, 13 to 20 families, 3,000 to 4,000 men, and an ever-narrowing power structure at the top that comes down to 300 men and women. It literally is true. It's real. We'll get to that in a minute. Underneath that, we have world government. World government is following the direction of these people. These people have created world government as a way to set their plans, their agendas into control beyond the influence of sovereign national governments and the people they are supposed to represent, but no longer do. So, world government is the United Nations at this point in time, which was financed and set in place by the bankers and these people, claiming that it was going to bring world peace and solutions to all the problems, but that was not truly the intent at all. And if you look very carefully, you can see that is not the intent of the United Nations anymore. The intent is to create a super world government, a one world government, a one world order, a new world order, that term you hear coming out of all the high-level architects of this system. That's every other word out of their mouth today. New world order. All right? So, world government, United Nations, and then below that is the government of all levels, which appears to be functioning in the old-fashioned way, or the way people still believe it works, but it's not. It's being dictated from the top of the power pyramid, and the strings are being pulled at the top, and puppets all the rest of the way down the system dangle from those strings operated at the top of the power pyramid. So then beneath government that you see, which is basically a grand dog and pony show, are the politicians, all right? And the politicians are the front men. They're the actors. They're the puppets. They are the pretenders who set all this in motion for the top of the power pyramid. That's how it works, and it's how it's worked for a long time. Beneath that, we have over here on this side the other tools at their availability. World media. World media. My goodness, what it's become today. Almost all-encompassing and omnipresent. World media, which in a sense is world mind control. That's how it's used, programming you. That's what this is all about today. Perception and interpretation. They want to create your perception, your interpretation, and therefore your actions. Underneath that, mind control technology. Now that's been added into the picture in modern times. Now obviously, this power pyramid and the fact that there have been tyrannical, despotic people into power and control is not new. It's as ancient as humanity, or at least as ancient as humanity in the last 10,000 years, give or take a few thousand years. Before that, it was actually quite different. They have always dreamed of more and more power, more and more wealth, more and more conquest, more and more military might, more and more control. But there was a big planet and a wild planet, and it was not so easy to achieve in the past because they didn't have technology. Brilliant people, brilliant minds, geniuses have created a lot of technology over a period of time that now has made this dream much more within the grasp of people who still operate with the addiction to power and control over others. And that's really what it is. It's an addiction, the ultimate addiction. Now they have it within their grasp, or so they believe. That's where we get mind control of a technological sort. And in case you don't know this, I'm going to give you a news flash. That has been worked out to an astonishing science and art. You may not wish to believe that now, but we'll get into that later. And later in this presentation, I'm going to bring in a guest, a local author who will really open your eyes and your mind to many aspects of that. But technological mind control can be accomplished now. Technological, electromagnetic frequency, and many other ways to alter human perception, interpretation, and behavior. Scientifically, technologically. That's not science fiction anymore. It's not Star Trek anymore. It's a reality, and it's been a reality for quite some time. So, down here underneath that, we have the citizenry. 7 billion plus of them. And I put citizens first because that's what we're supposed to be. But really, we have now become subjects, slaves, and human resources. That's the term they use in government today when they're talking about us. We are human resources to be used like other resources. I don't like that very much, and I don't think you should either. As in fact, the whole direction of Agenda 21 and everything that's been happening for quite some time is to return us to a subject, slave, like a neo-feudalism type status. And that's happening everywhere. And if you take a good close look, you'll see that. And ultimately, Agenda 21's plans that have all been laid out and all admitted are to do that in a high-tech, futuristic, Hunger Games fashion. Now, I think it's very meaningful that movie has been created. Brilliant author and creators of that movie. And that has laid out a world that we are very rapidly moving toward. I would say we're 8/10 of the way there. And is that really where you want to go? Is that what you want for your future generations? Is that what you want for the rest of your life? We're heading there extremely rapidly. We'll only take a few events to put us there. So, that's what's happening. I mention this because I believe there is not going to be any meaningful change in the world, in the direction of the world, until this is changed somehow, or in many ways somehow. And that's for all of us to figure out and create. We're not going anywhere as long as this has seized the reins of power and control and ownership in an astonishingly concentrated form. And that's what it is today. They've been working at this for a long time. So, I put here underneath that a maxim that I want you to remember throughout the course of this presentation. And please contemplate it deeply. It's ancient. All that is necessary for evil to triumph over good is for the good people to do nothing. And that's the key phrase, to do nothing. All this I'm talking about, and we'll be talking about the rest of the day, they don't hide it anymore. In my youth, when I began to figure all this stuff out, actually at a very, very young age, there still was a great attempt to hide it, to disguise it, to cover it up, to discredit everybody who even pointed at it. They don't do that anymore. They put it right in front of your face because they believe you will do nothing about it. Because they believe they can induce you and have induced you to do nothing about it, and they're banking the farm that you won't. And so far, kind of, the collective of people is proving them right. A lot more needs to be done. And what I ultimately want and hope to inspire you to do is to do something, to wake up, to see what's coming, to see what's already been happening, and to do something. Otherwise, I believe this maxim could come true, could manifest. So, the other maxim I want you to keep in mind that follows right underneath this is power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Another very ancient statement and maxim, which I think should be quite obvious. How many scandals do you need to see every day, every year? How many politicians, movie stars, actors, sports stars, how many people do you need to see fall from grace in a scandalous way before you begin to understand how things really operate? And not everybody who's famous, powerful, and rich are good people. That's obviously not what's going on, is it? If you can't see that, something has happened to your perception and your interpretation. And I'm going to show you some graphic examples later how that's happened or prove to you that it's happened. And we're going to get into that in a great degree. Now, when I have people who still seem to suggest that this is all a bunch of nonsense, I would say to them, I can bury you in a mountain of evidence. I can bury you in a mountain of evidence. I have studied every book I could get my hands on, documentary, papers, movies, investigative journalistic reports, law, history, the whole 9 yards. How can you say we're making this up? Extremely knowledgeable, credentialed people have weighed in and are weighing in daily on all of this in a big way. Because as they escalate their plans and their agendas, people are waking up. And this is presenting a huge problem. They're becoming desperate. They're becoming frightened, and things are falling apart. That's inevitably part of this power pyramid. Because when you're addicted to power and control, you want to be the top dog at the top of the power pyramid. So there's infighting amongst them now. These guys over here in the military-industrial complex with all the technology are saying, why are we doing this for the bankers? They've been promising a lot for 300 or 400 years. Why should we serve them? We have the technology that's the ultimate power, and the bankers are saying, boys, you don't have anything unless we finance it for you, so stay in line. You see what I mean? There's infighting and power struggle as you go up this power pyramid. Inevitable. Part of the nature of power. I want to mention one other thing. Let me go back to this one briefly. I forgot. Notice the bottom of there? Open challenge to debate and discuss. If you know so much more than me and the hundreds and thousands of people and all the mountain of evidence I could point to you about all of this, if you know more, if you know better, bring it forward. Open challenge, open bait to discussion right here on TCTV, on any media you wish. I'm there, okay? Will you be? All you politicians here in Thurston County that are supposed to protect and serve the people who are now putting in agendas that are quite contrary to that, where are you? Come on, let's go. Come on. You're going to tell us we're making this up? You're going to insult us and telling us we're insane and hysterical and it's not to be believed? Bring your evidence. Bring your proof of that. In 35 years of doing this, I've offered this challenge. Okay, show us what you've got. Not one time in more than 3 decades has anyone ever taken me up on this challenge. Now, I find that astonishingly revealing. If it's not true, prove us wrong. You know better than everyone else. Show us what you got. Now, what I'm not going to do with this, I'm not willing to do, is I'm not going to get into debates and discussions about belief systems, particularly religious belief systems. That goes nowhere. It's like a pit of quicksand. People will hold on to those beliefs no matter how much evidence is in front of them to the contrary. So I'm not going to get into that. Believe what you wish. But I'm talking about law, facts, historical evidence, science, and what I would call the greater weight of credible evidence as it would be utilized in a court of law. And let's let everybody decide from the greater weight of the evidence instead of you standing in the bushes and trying to shoot us down with ridicule and judgment and disbelief because you're threatened by it. You got something better to offer? Bring it forward. The next maxim that I would like you to keep in mind is one that's very near and dear to me. Many years ago, I did a number of apprenticeships and training as a cabinet maker and a fine furniture maker and all kinds of fine woodworking, a number of them. One of the wonderful elderly gentlemen I trained with was a very learned man as well and a very wealthy man, and he had done a lot of things, but his great love and his passion was for cabinet making and fine furniture making. And every day when I came to his shop to work with him, he would point to this poster on the wall and make me recite it to him. And what it says is, neither read nor listen to believe or disbelieve, but to weigh and consider. Your ability to then judge is proportional to your knowledge, experience, and what you think you already know. Now, that was taught to him by his mentor, a man who was a PhD, an MD, a dentist, and a college professor. All kinds of degrees behind his name. And when we were done working in the shop for the day, before I leave, he'd point to it again and make me recite that again. So I think that is a very worthwhile thing to keep in mind as we're presenting this. I don't want you to believe or disbelieve. What I want you to do is to weigh and consider and go dig into it yourself. If you don't do that, you're going to find every reason to disbelieve me. You haven't made it your own knowledge, your own experience, hasn't been your journey. I don't want that. That's why I don't spoon feed people with too much exact information. I can do that, but it doesn't serve. I've learned this over the years. You've got to go after this and make it your own, or you will stay in the category of do nothing because you haven't made it real to your life. All right? So please keep that in mind. Now, let me adjust here. So we're going to focus, as I said, on why do so many people not get it? What is cognitive dissonance? Why is the reaction about personal threat, personal fear, and emotional rejection? I learned this long ago. If you present to people facts, knowledge, information, history, future agendas that are planned and are being worked out, and their only reaction is fear, they can't incorporate it into their emotional reality, they're going to reject it. They're going to discredit it. They're going to attack the messenger, shoot the messenger, instead of taking it as a gift and making a difference in the world or a difference in their own life. I find that extremely tragic, but it is an aspect of human nature that I've learned very well. So you have to do this in bits and pieces in a way that becomes acceptable to their lives, and you have to offer some solutions and a plan, preparedness, let's call that preparedness, so they don't feel fearful and vulnerable and reject it for those reasons, which human beings will almost always do. So, let's talk now about perception and interpretation. I began to learn about this at a very, very young age. In my childhood, very young childhood, I displayed some very uncanny abilities. And one of them was I had the ability to put together puzzles, which was very popular in my family and people around me. Picture puzzles, beautiful scenes and pictures with hundreds and sometimes thousands of pieces. I had the ability to do that extremely rapidly. I still do. And I learned not everyone could do this. And I learned at a young age, one of the reasons I could do this was I had the ability to hold the entire picture in my mind. I could see the entire picture, so it was easy for me to put together segments and colors and patterns and put the whole thing together because I could see it in my mind together. I learned not everyone can do this. I learned in the other little games and magazines and things we had about finding the hidden object in a scene, finding the animals hidden in a picture. I could do this very well, and I learned not everyone could do this. So I learned from a very young age, not everyone has the same perception or the same abilities in perception. Later, as an artist, I trained as an artist. I've been an artist in my life professionally. I learned this in an even more dramatic way because people truly don't see things the same way, and therefore their art was a representation of not just an emotional understanding that was different or attempt to be creative and different. They truly didn't see things the same. As a musician, I learned this as well, very obviously. Everybody is different in the way they play even the same music. No two people are exactly alike. It's very individual. So the way we hear is different as well. So all our sensory perceptions are different. And not only that, compounding that, our interpretation of those sensory impressions can be extremely different. 7 billion people with different perceptions. It's amazing we don't have a lot more chaos than we do. I don't know how anything actually works, but somehow we pull it off in some ways. But perhaps the most revealing was in nature. I've spent my entire life living close to nature, in the wilds, self-sufficiently, off-grid, guiding people in the wilderness, teaching wilderness survival skills, hunting, fishing, stalking, all these things. And I would have people come saying they want to learn these things with me or from me. And I would take them into the wilderness, and it became extremely obvious they can't see what's right in front of them very often. And inevitably, the more urbanized, the more technological, the more disconnected from nature they were, the less they were able to see these things. I could take them right to the edge of a forest or a field or whatever and stop and point at animals that I could see sometimes at great distances. Ask my wife, if you don't believe me, ask her what I'm capable of seeing at a half a mile and a mile away, driving down the highway in a car with animals far away in the field. Ask her. Come tell. Tell them if it's not true that I really can do this. She has seen me do these examples. I have brought people right to animals and point, and they can't see it. I've brought them to the edge of a stream where there are fish in the stream. We're bow fishing. They can't see the fish. I'm hitting it at 40 and 50 feet. And a fish in the water isn't where you're looking at it anyway. Where it appears to be, it's actually several inches beneath because of the refraction of light. Water bends the light rays. So there's another thing going on there. And I want to absolutely make this point. The more technologically dependent, the more urbanized, the more sheltered from nature, the more disconnected from the rhythms of weather and nature's cycles, people are losing all these senses and these abilities that used to be essential for survival for people in our past history. They're losing this completely in some cases. This is a devastating thing, I would say, and it's happening in ways you can't imagine. And the more you become dependent, the more electromagnetic noise going into your mind, the more cell phone towers, the more cell phones, the more music pumped in your ears, the more media, mass media. People are absolutely overwhelmed with information and media. That's what causes the cognitive dissonance in so many occasions. The people at the top of that power pyramid, they know this very well. They know your attention span. There it is, the people at the top of that. They know your attention span is fragmented. They know the lens of your sensory perception is fractured and fragmented. They know you're overwhelmed with the rapidity of change in the world today. They know you're overwhelmed with technology. They know you're overwhelmed with decisions that have to be made when you're faced with so many options. They know you very well, and they know you will shut down when you are overwhelmed. They know you will shut down when you're overstimulated. They know they can exhaust your nervous system. They know they can exhaust your immune system. And that's what's happening to people all over the world. They know you better than you know you. So they know how to stay in power and control and make you think you need all this stuff. Well, human history is extremely ancient and extremely long. And for most of human history, the great vast majority of it, we didn't have any of this stuff. And we survived. Do you really think it's all absolutely necessary today simply because it can be done? When the intention, that's the key word, the intention of most of it today is about surveillance, control, and manipulation. Remember, that's what's giving them the dream that they think is finally within their grasp. They know you're overwhelmed. And if you're not, they're going to make sure you are overwhelmed with sensory pleasure. Sensory pleasure. Make sure you have enough of that. If that doesn't work, distractive entertainment. Sports. Sports. Dancing with the Stars. Endless movies. Endless sensory stimulation and excitement. Sexual stimulation and excitement in every place you look. They understand very well you're human animal. And that's why they're in power and control still, because you and we refuse to change and get beyond that. The distraction is so great today, and the resources applied to that is so astonishing today that I find it appalling and incomprehensible. But that's why it's working. That's why it's working. Now, let's talk a little bit about, again, differences in perception. Obviously, a person who is colorblind has a very different perception of reality than you. A person who is hearing impaired or deaf has a very different perception of sound or the lack of sound than you do. Autism. That's an example. Different perceptions. I want to mention a brilliant scientist by the name of Dr. Andrija Puharich. Dr. Andrija Puharich was kind of a contemporary of Einstein's, a scientist I greatly admire and have studied a lot. He lived longer than Einstein did. Dr. Puharich did a major study for several years, and he went into mental institutions and other places like that where society puts away people with different perceptions and different realities and different behavior that doesn't fit in to the box, doesn't fit into the predictable, controllable box, or doesn't fit in too well in the social structure of our society. Dr. Puharich found an extraordinarily high percentage of these children, in particular, had IQs and capacities beyond his ability to measure. And they were dysfunctional in society, not because they were developmentally challenged, but because they were developmentally superior and couldn't fit in to the low level of social function that we're operating on now. He found a huge number of people like this. The same is true with what's called autism, some of the autism today. Savantism, synesthetists, people with extraordinary perception abilities beyond normal people, and sometimes extraordinary capabilities associated beyond normal people. A wonderful example of that would be, for instance, the famous Helen Keller, supposedly deaf, dumb, and blind, but extraordinarily capable. Another example of that is many of the great blind musicians. I've known a few. A sensitivity and a oneness with their instrument and their musical ability that is extraordinary, even though they're blind. They've augmented and developed these abilities with their other senses and sometimes their body to overcome a deficiency of one sense that we depend on tremendously, which is eyesight. Another wonderful example right here, very near us, is a man by the name of Jason Padgett, who is, his story, his biography, is written up in a book called Struck by Genius. He lives very, very near here in the Puget Sound. Remarkable man, remarkable story. He was attacked, beaten, injured, sustained brain injuries, but his brain injuries catapulted him into some extraordinary levels of perception and interpretation that not everyone has, and is displayed in extraordinary genius in terms of sacred geometry and seeing, literally seeing things in nature, mathematics, pi, phi, sacred geometric constructs. He sees it everywhere in nature and has rendered it in artwork in a very dramatic way. I hope to meet this man very soon because it's part of the research along these lines. So my point is, perception can be very, very different. So I understand not everyone can see this stuff that's obvious to me and obvious to a lot of other human beings. But most of the time, it's because they don't want to, because they've shut down emotionally. Or they're invested in it. They're part of the plan. They're part of the game. They don't want their party altered by a bunch of people with a different perception and different values and the right to live beyond the grasp of their agendas and their plans. They don't want that because they're technologically obsessed control freaks. Take a look. Take a look at that. That's me. That's what's going on. I say we need some options here. We need some other options in freedom. We need some other options as the direction of our history. And we're going to have to work hard to create that. Because those people at the top of that power pyramid are not interested in giving it up. In fact, they've shown and are showing right now, one of the other reasons we're doing this presentation right now is because of the escalation of world events that you see happening. I see happening. I hope you see happening. Things are escalating in a very dangerous fashion. Some major events are going to happen very, very soon in the future that are catastrophic. Some have already happened in the past. Others are coming. We're running out of time to make some meaningful changes. So there's urgency among all people who understand and know this stuff. Okay. Now, we're going to pause momentarily. We're going to rearrange, and I'm going to get into showing you. Okay, welcome back. Now, we're going to get in to perception and interpretation in a graphic, simple, demonstrative way. All right. Right here, I have a picture. I have a scene. You see the close-up of it there. I say to you, tell me what that is, what that represents, what that means, or how that's going to affect you. And I'm going to give you a short period of time to do it. 5 minutes. Okay? I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Na, 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 na. You know, like the game show? Okay. Focus on that. Look, right there. What is that? Now, you're going to say, treetop. I don't know what that is. And I'll say, why not? Well, maybe you'll say, well, it's a bunch of pieces. It's the pieces of a puzzle. It's random, chaotic bits of information. I don't know what that is. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a short period of time to put that puzzle together so you can understand what it means. Put it back into coherence. Put it back into organization. Understand its message. Go for it. Oh, but wait. All I have to do is induce a stress. I'm going to make the odds a little harder. So I'm going to say to you, God, you ever watch people on these game shows? It's a perfect example. If you can figure this out in a very short period of time, you are going to win $5 million. You're going to be fabulous wealthy. You're going to live like a king. All your dreams will come true. Good things are going to happen for you and yours forever. $5 million. Go. And you're going to fall apart like the people on the game shows, and you're going to act like an idiot, and you're going to say, wait a minute, I'm nervous. I'm going to say, why? Well, I'm afraid I'm going to fail. That's a serious emotional stress. Almost everyone deals with it. You're afraid you're going to fail. I offered you $5 million. Go for it. But if you can't do it in 5 minutes, bad things are going to happen to you. Now I've induced the other stress. Fear of failure and fear of punishment if you cannot do it. Now all I'm asking you to do is put together the pieces of a simple picture. I can see what it is. I know what it is. I've created it. All right? All I'm telling you is go for it. Put it together like a puzzle. Go, go, go. 5 million if you get it in 5 minutes. Bad things if you don't. You're going to crumble and you're going to fall to pieces because I've induced stress. That is what the people at the top of the power pyramid and their minions all the way down do to you every day. They do to everybody every day. They have put you under stress. Anybody out there not stressed? Show me. Show me who is not stressed. Life's getting harder, a little harder to make a living, a little harder to keep the same standard of living. Every time you go to shop, it's more and more expensive. Inflation eating up, more and more traffic on the road. People are snapping and cracking and crumbling from stress in every way. So all I had to do to incapacitate your ability to see and know was put you under stress. The stress of reward and the stress of failure and punishment. Isn't that what law and government's all about? Do as you're told, or you will be punished. Do as you're told, or your family will suffer. Do as you're told. Well, who makes the rules? Those guys at the top, whether you like it or not. Okay, so here's my point. What is it? You can't do it. 5 minutes up, I am so sorry. You couldn't see what's right in front of you because it was randomly chaotic bits and pieces. Now this represents the fact that the information could come to you in bits and pieces in time. You don't get all the information. You don't get all the plans and the agendas. You don't see all the actions all at once. They come in bits and pieces, in fragments. You've forgotten the ones you saw last week. You forgot 6 months ago. You forgot the lies they told. You forgot the promises they made. So you don't hold them accountable. This can be visually fractured. It can be fractured in time. It can be fractured in coherence. And it can be fractured in other ways. For instance, focus. Tell me what it is. You're going to win 5 million or bad thing. Don't look at her. Don't pay attention to her. Don't look at her. No. No, focus right now. Come on. Right here. Focus. See, tell me what that is. Don't pay attention to the beautiful woman. Unless I want you to pay attention to the beautiful woman because I want to sell you something. Then it's okay. Then I'm going to tell you to pay attention to her because I'm going to put her in front of your face. But right now, don't look. Don't look. Right here. Here it is. Go. 5 million or you die, right? All right, time's up. Now, I just induced another stress, a distraction. Why do you think they put beautiful men, beautiful women, wearing as little as possible on everything they want to sell you? Somehow you think you get that if you buy what they want to sell you, right? Okay, right. Doesn't work that way, usually. So, Another distraction while you're under stress and you can't see something that's very serious. Okay, time's up. Psst. Here is what you could not see. Now give me a focus on that. Come right up in that camera if you can, if you can. Maybe I need to do, no, I need to do that. Anyway, there it is. There it is. There, he's got it already. Check it out. That's what's coming to your doorstep to deliver you a pizza. Don't you think it would be good if you could have seen it? Would you let your daughter go out with that? Oh, show that picture again. Yeah. Now, that's what people on meth for a few years start to look like. That's the kind of people they're putting on television shows about zombies for you to watch as entertainment. Is that entertaining to you? If that came into your life, would you find that entertaining? I don't think so. But you couldn't see it because you were under stress, you were distracted, and it was in random bits and pieces. When it shows up at your door, now you got a problem. You know what that is? That's a gun practice target. You go buy them at the gun store. That's what people practice, doing their marksmanship with their handguns on, which is another type of programming, right? Okay, there's the first one. You didn't get it. I'm so sorry. Okay, all right, next one. Next one, the middle one there. Can we focus in on it or pull it up? Na, 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 na. Na, 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 no. Still don't have it here. There we go. Cool. Now, what is this? Come on, hurry up. I'm going to give you just a little time. Well, you say, treetop, I don't know. I see blue. Well, blue is like water and sky. Yeah, okay, maybe. Keep going. Come on. What is this? Look at all the pieces. Come on. What is that? Come on. 5 million if you get it. Serious punishment if you don't. Can you tell? Is this a danger to you? Is this a threat to you? Is it something you should be concerned about? Well, you're going to say, I can't tell. Why can't you tell? There it all is. All the pieces of the puzzle are there. Well, you're going to say, it's not. Give me some time. I'll put it together. And then you're going to start going like this, and you're going to move this one here, and you go, oh, wait a minute, that one goes with this one, and this one goes with this one. And what the heck is that? I don't know. I can't tell. And I'm under stress because bad things are going to happen to me if I go and get it. You're right. Seriously, bad things are going to happen. Anybody want to go for a swim? Check it out. That's what was staring you in the face as you're playing on the beach with your children. Could you see it? No, because you don't have the eyes to see it. You didn't have the patience to see it. You didn't have the your focus was fractured. You were distracted. You were looking at the pretty girls on the beach, and you let your children go in the water, and it was right there. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. You see, things can happen. All right, next one. Next one. Move right on over to the next one. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. There you go. Let's spread this out. All right. What is it? What is it? Come on. Is this a threat to your life and your well-being? Is this a threat to your country? Is this something good for you? Is this a person? What is it? Come on. Hurry up. Again, 5 million if you get it. Bad things if you don't. All right, okay, blah, blah, blah. You're trying to put it together. You're putting it together. And then suddenly, you get it. My man, there he is. Oh, you know who this is? Have you ever seen this image before? No, you have seen this image. Who is this? Well, everybody knows Treetop. That's Osama bin Laden. We saw his face every day for a whole decade, right? He's bad. He did bad things to us. He's a bad guy. We're going to talk more about bad guys in the next part, right? He's a bad guy. Doggone it, I couldn't see it when it was in pieces. But when someone puts it in front of you and says, there it is, there's the threat, there's the danger, there's the bad guy, go get him, you do it. We did it, right? Bad guy. We'll talk more about that in a minute. All right? Now, next one. Way out there on the end of the table. Oh, hey, come on back here. Hey, come on back. Come on back. Come on back. Now, I really want you to focus on this one now. Ready? Focus. Focus. What is this picture? He's going to get in a minute. Now, focus. Focus. What is it? What is it? Who is it? What is it? Is this something good for you? Is this something bad for you? Is this harm? Is this, what is this? Again, I can't tell. It's random. I need more time. Let me look at it in more time, then I'll tell you. Oh, sorry. Your time is up. Here we are. That's what was looking at you, man. Oh, yeah. And you're saying, wow, now that's more what I want to look at. I don't want to look at Osama bin Laden. But you see, I put one of those right in your view while you had to focus on this to distract you, because it's wonderful distraction, right? There it is. Not bad, huh? Okay, okay. So, I showed you danger. I showed you an imminent bad guy threat. I showed you something else. And I showed you this horrible pizza guy here, right? But you couldn't see it. You see my point? My point in this is the following. Fragmented information equals an incomplete picture, equals incomplete or erroneous perception, and then possibly erroneous interpretation. Because once you see any of these, the interpretation part still is yet to come. And everybody can be a little different in how they interpret that. Fragmented photos represent a fragmented lens of perception. And my point is, if you're under stress, if you get the information in bits and pieces, or it's colored, or placed in another context, or in the midst of enormous distraction, you're unlikely to see the reality that's right in front of you. And if what you see, when you see it, brings tremendous fear reaction, you're going to look away. If it pushes your morality buttons, if it threatens your concepts of reality, your belief systems, you're going to reject it completely. And that is the difficulty in presenting this stuff to people when it's affecting their every minute of their daily lives because they're too busy rejecting it. Cognitive dissonance. Okay, now let's go on to the next part here. The next part I've titled, Good Guys, Bad Guys. So let's pause briefly and we're going to rearrange again.